Welcome, everybody. We've had a lot of technical issues tonight. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to check in to see if there's any solar activity happening. I have no idea. But tonight's show, let me just go ahead and scroll it on down and let's get started. Um, I hate technical difficulties like that, but it happens. But like I said, before we get started, let's go ahead and let you know you can find us on any major platform. Just search for the Renegade Network, Facebook. That's what I'm going to be covering tonight. Is Facebook post. Facebook.com/TRN247. Just search the Renegade Network on Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, and you'll find us. You see my little logo, my little mask, and everything else, and you know the channel when you find it. So let's go ahead and get started on what's on tonight's show. Again, like I said, on tonight's show, we're going to be covering uh, post from December 15th to the 18th. If you're not following our Facebook page, I encourage you to do so because I drop a lot of information going on there. And today's the news. It's been impeachment. The third president in history. It's going to die in the Senate. Like I said, everything's going to die in the Senate. It's not going to make it past that. And what they've done is they've ensured him his 2020 victory, in my opinion. But while all this is going on, while everything's taking place, let me go ahead and we're gonna get started. As my little buddy always tells me, all right, let's get started. The first one, as you see, on December 15th, I dropped Virginia National Guard issues statement over calls to enforce gun control. And I said I'll go over this on the next show. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to cover it. But before we do that, let me go ahead. And on December 15th at 16:04, I said, don't go. Three up, which is for United Patriots, for the people that don't know. It's asking for no outside interference. All right. And let me read what they said. It says, let me go back up here. It says, please, I am the state leader for the Virginia 3 Up. That's United Patriots. I understand that all eyes are on our Commonwealth concerning our Second Amendment. I also understand that patriots across the nation, especially our border states, are wanting to show up and assemble. While this is appreciated, I must implore you not to come. Outside interference is what caused Charlottesville to turn out the way it did. 3 Up VA gave the stand down, and folks don't listen. Now we're asking again, if you're out of state, do not show up to our lobby day. We're working with many organizations to solve our issues judicially and without force or conflict. Again, we seriously appreciate the support we have and are blessed to have it. We just ask that you stand by us and let us work. Okay, and this was from John Pruitt, excuse me. John, I guess he is the state leader, and I've read that to you. Now, but before we get even covering this even further, I'm going to say this. There's a lot of fear-mongering going on out there. There's a lot of fear-mongering. A lot of just misinformation. Now, what I'm going to tell you, yes, the National Guard, and they do have the right, not the National Guard, but the Department of Homeland Security or whatever else. If there's a civil unrest, yes, they have the ability to cut off the internet. Yes, they have the ability to cut off the power. But do they want to do it? No, they don't want to do it. Because take California instance, for instance, when they cut the power off for the storms and the winds, somebody died, and that looked bad upon them. So now it's for medical reasons, they're not just going to want to do it. But if it gets bad enough, yes, they will do it. It's in their powers. They can do it. So all this fear mongering that you hear going on, let me continue on. I'm not even going to get started on that. Um, let's see what. Let's get back to that. Virginia National Guard issues statement over controls to enforce gun control, over calls to enforce gun control. Now, like I said, the Virginia National Guard, I guess a Democratic Congressman, Donald McEachran's comments about using National Guards to enforce Governor Ralph Northam's proposed gun control laws in Virginia has caused a storm of controversy in the state, to the point the Adjutant General of the Virginia National Guard has issued a statement after scores of phone calls and emails from concerned citizens and curious media figures. And here is the statements made by General Timothy P. Williams, and I quote him. He says, "We have received multiple questions regarding proposed legislation for the 2020 General Assembly session and the authority of the Governor of Virginia to employ the Virginia's National Guard in a law enforcement role. Please make sure you share this message with all of your personnel. We understand and respect the passion people feel for the U.S. Constitution and the Second Amendment right. We do not speculate about the possible use of the Virginia National Guard. I encourage everyone to be patient while we allow our elected officials to work through the legislative process. We have not received any requests from the governor or anyone on his staff about serving any law enforcement role related to any proposed legislation. I expect our soldiers, airmen, and members of the Virginia Defense Force to be professional and respectful in their discussions about this subject. As a private citizens, our personnel are free to express their opinions to their elected officials, but they should not engage in any political activity while in a uniform status. We will provide regular updates when appropriate during the General Assembly session. Please utilize your chain of command to direct any questions or concerns to my office, and we will do our best to address them." And that was a statement issued from the Adjutant General Timothy P. Williams from the Virginia National Guard. Now, for those who was hoping that Major General Williams was about to come out swinging with a hell no, we're not going to take anybody's guns, it wasn't going to happen. Even if that's how, he feels, okay? He's not going to pick a fight with the governor if he doesn't have to. He can kick this can down the road, at least until Northam's actually requests the National Guard to go into rural counties to look for people who are allowing their 17-year-old daughters to hunt unsupervised on their property or try to catch someone transferring a firearm without a background check. If Northam's were actually dumb enough to do that, I suspect what he'd find yet another crisis of public confidence on his hands. Not only would he have to deal with dozens of counties and cities that have said no to unconstitutional gun control laws, he'd create a crisis within the Virginia National Guard, whose members swore to uphold the Constitution. Many of these National Guardsmen are gun owners and Second Amendment supporters as well. And I suspect there would be a genuine fracturing of the organizations over the issue. In fact, if you read between the lines of the Adjutant General's statement, it's clear that McEachran's comment is already causing a stir within the Guard itself. The men and women of the Virginia National Guard signed up to defend the freedoms, not establish a police state on American soil, where soldiers search for scofflaws who refuse to register their rifles with Virginia State Police. That's a lot to take in. That really is. Now, and that brings us to about 3 hours later after I posted it and everything else, about John Pruitt, the leader of 3UP VA, Virginia. He issued a new statement, and let me read it in full. I'm going to try to bring it down so that you'll be able to see it too. Let me make it bigger. It says, he says, please read correction course. Course correction. Please disregard my previous request for out-of-state groups to stand by. It was a request that was made in haste for the sole purpose of protection of our Commonwealth and citizen. It is obvious to me now that a request such as that is too tall of an order. So for those who are wanting to come, we ask that you leave your gear in your vehicle, hotel, wherever you are. If you are showing up in support of Virginia, please be in plain support. Please be in plain clothes and act accordingly. Let us be heard by our politicians. Do not come looking for a fight. This is a lobby day. You might see different groups there that normally have different agendas. They may be with us in this fight. Again, act accordingly. Please respect our home. It will also be a good idea to leave the long guns as well. Virginia is an open carry state, but Richmond has its own ordinance, and PD, the police department, will be ready to enforce. Do your research. It is also a good idea to touch base with local groups to get the lay of the land, and thanks for y'all help and understanding. That was from that John Pruitt, the leader of 3 Up. All right, let me go ahead and turn him off. Let me turn this off. All right, well, now they're wanting you to show up. They're wanting to show up. Do as you want, okay? I'm not here to tell you to go out there and force, but please, before you run guns blazing, lock and loaded, think about what you're doing. There's a lot of counties out there that's already said they're set up as a Second Amendment sanctuary county. So basically, what they're saying is, our counties are not going to be put up with it. They're not going to deal with it. So, sorry, I had to get a drink. And again, like I said, there's a lot of freaking fear mongering going on. There's ways to fight this. I'm not saying to take up arms. I mean, I covered this in the last show. No, there's multiple ways you can deal with it. You could either try to find loopholes, you can find laws. Yes, they should not be stepping on your Second Amendment rights. I agree there. Do you know what will happen? Really? Do you really know what will happen if a civil war does break out? I hear so many of these militia leaders, not leaders, but some of the followers out there, well, I'm so ready for this thing to pop off. I can't wait to be in the trenches with my guys. Well, until you've been cold, until you've actually been out there getting shot at, until you've actually been hot, hungry, it's going to be bad. It would be bad for our country, okay? Because that would destabilize a lot of stuff. Then it would break up into probably a lot of smaller little groups, a lot of little small countries, and I mean, this is the New World Order wants the United States to fail. The Illuminati wants the United States to fail. This goes back again to the one world government that they want to implement. So by keeping us divided, what do you think they're doing with the election that they're just now trying to impeach that I just covered? What are they trying to do? I mean, again, I just, like I said, I'm going to let you be the judge and let you decide what you want to do. Let's move on. Now, on December 15th, I said I was going to drop you a little Easter egg last show. Now, excuse me. Let me go ahead and see where we at. There we are. Let's go ahead and open that on up. That was, it says, well, I was going to drop you a little Easter egg. Well, most of you know that I've been sick, and I do get bored. As a former field commander, being out there with my guys, I've been over the Middle East. I've been all around. I've been into several areas. So I know what it's like. I've been a national commander. I've been a state leader. I've been a state commander. I have been. So I know the movement inside and out. I know what these guys are going through. Okay. Um, but with my health the way it's gotten me, uh, I get bored, and as you can imagine, from going to the Bundies to Oregon to wherever there's a hot zone to the borders, wherever I was there, and I get bored. So um, the storms that came through, I said tomorrow I will have a team with a few, and I'll team up with a few TV stations to chase the storm. That was the storms that was in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. You know, the ones that came through. All right, I've already warned you about them. Is what I said. Like I said, as a former field commander, I miss going boots on the ground. This way, I can still provide some warning and protection to you and yours. Godspeed, Patriots. Okay. Again, anytime you see R, that lets you know it's the Renegade that signed it. That's me. Okay. It doesn't stand for initial, first name, last name. It don't stand for none of that bullshit. So, oh well, get that out of your head. Um, Now, I was working on another. Um, I was hoping. This is what I was hoping to see if I can get you another R proof. Let me see if I can get you another R proof. That was on December 15th. 1420 might tweet about bringing 4,000 troops home from Afghanistan. So I said set marker. With all this impeachment stuff going on, he hasn't had time to think about Afghanistan or a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm trying to set you a marker up and try to get another R proof there for you. That's all that post was. Let's move on. Oh, did you know U.S. secretly expelled 2 Chinese diplomats? Let me see if I can remember this correctly. Do you remember the Virginia Naval Yard incident where some people went in, busted through the car, caused a whole lockdown, stirred up? I think it was 2018. I think it may have been when they caused a whole lot of crap and everything locked up, and they thought it was a mass shooting. And well, it was the 2 Chinese. They said they didn't understand, but bullshit. Now they were intelligence officers. From what I gathered, they were intelligence officers. You can do your own research, do your own looking and see who these they were who was expelled. Okay, why were they expelled? Who were they working for? With all this spying stuff going on, I think you might need to be pointed in the right direction on that one. Let me go ahead and move it on up some. Now, on December 15th, the team and I, we was on the move to Jackson, Mississippi. We got in place, and it allowed for us to get into some a pretty good positioning. Now, we want to be on the south side of the storms because that's the safest place to be. You don't want to be on the north side or whatever side. And it said, let me break this open for you. The team and I, thinking this will allow us to chase in several directions, I-20 all the way into Tuscaloosa or south to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Now, we know those storms caused a lot of, it says, let us pray we don't have any lives lost because there's been plenty of warning. Maybe you might want to think about cleaning up and helping the people who might be affected. Or, well, we know there was some lives lost. We know this. Uh, I know for a fact 2 in Alabama, I think 1 in Louisiana. Still, no one's life should have been lost. I mean, with the warning that we've had, the warning that I put out, with the warning that the news people put out, um, I'm just saying there should not have been um, any lives lost, but you're going to. So now there's places in Mississippi, Alabama, that are, and I think in Louisiana they're possibly cleaning up. It wasn't the widespread EF4 tornadoes; it was EF zeros through twos, I think. But still, a tornado is a tornado. It doesn't matter. Just a second. I am finally starting to get over this cold that I've had. So let me cough. Just hold on. And I'm back. Sorry, like I said, sorry about that. This cold has been awful on me. Now, the next post, it kind of touches home to me because now let me see. Somebody came into our Discord. Not gonna give up. All right. Let me. Somebody came into our Discord room. That's why I was just checking. Mama Bear. That's it. Well, welcome Mama Bear to the Discord chat. And um, what y'all probably don't realize in this next one on December 15th that I posted, uh, it says, "Do you see how some of the sick ass posts look to an outsider?" Well, let me go ahead and break that up. Let me see. Let me see what she said. Betty in a Follow the White Ragged says, "I'm not following this post. It's a bunch of vulgar trash. What made you think I was?" So, of course, I mean, I see it. You see it. We know sex sells, folks. I mean, we know it. We know the news, the TV, the advertisers. We know it sells. And basically, a lot of the uh, QAnon followers, I'm not even going to go there. It says, I said, "Do you see how some of the sick ass posts look to an outsider? If you Q followers want to be taken seriously, I advise you to clean up the looks and watch what is posted. Um, I am excluding a large fan base. I know I could have. I mean, but I don't need and want that type of people that comes with it. All these sick ass posts really look bad for your movement." Um, Again, some follow ones and lick their ass and put shit like that. Put shit like that out. Why you think fucking worthless Joe M is in hiding? I mean, seriously. Um, I just want you to think the CP on his computer and feds are investigating his ass. Remember, the argument in court to the judge that you have it on your devices for research purposes will not hold up. He's going to get the. I mean, he's going to get the same time as someone who had it on there for other reasons, and that goes for any of you out there. Um, so, think about the type of people you flock with. The ones who say are fighting it are the very ones who's guilty. Be careful, my patriot friends. I'm telling you this. There was like a 60 something percent, 62, 63% of the team that looked into my team went into some computers that says that some of these Q followers that said, "Oh, I'm completely," and they had so many graphic images. Oh my God. Um, and not only the Tony Podesta stuff, I'm talking some sick stuff, okay? So, um, a 62% chance, 63% chance is too great of a chance because that's 60 something, over 60% of them, they had that shit on there, and we don't need that. So, yes, I'm cutting out a whole lot of those followers. I'm cutting out a whole lot of that because we want to keep our channel. I'm not saying it's not going on out there. Yes, it is. Human trafficking is going on. Yes, all that is going on. But I cannot associate or deal with the people who are always talking against it, but really have it. I mean, it pisses me off. And you too. If you're completely innocent, don't be led astray. Don't be misled. Don't be misled by false prophets. Uh, Look, Q. All right, there's some people out there that have some special abilities. Let me go ahead and turn this off. Just a second. They there's people out there that has the ability to um, read multiple timelines. Okay, they're able to see and almost predict what the outcomes are going to come on based by your actions. I explained this in my last video. Operation Crossfire that I set up, I done exactly the same thing. I needed to get somebody down to the border. I needed to move them. So I created a timeline, put outside factors that nudged them in the direction that I needed them to go. If and that goes with the Patriots. I used them and their how they would infight. I used a whole bunch of stuff that I knew would create this individual to be down where I needed him to, so that I could take the player off the board. There's no different than what Q is doing. We to see multiple different areas. It's got to do with breaking down the math. It's got algorithms. It's hard to explain, but don't dismiss what I'm saying. Operation Looking Glass. You need to research it. You need to do a lot of deep soul searching. Now, going back, I'm gonna switch gears just a second. I will switch gears just a second. Um, at 1837, the tornadoes taken earlier. A tornado was taken earlier in Marion County, Mississippi. You know, I will post picture of damage and comments. Many mobile homes have been hit in northwest Alabama. Again, watch the weather. Now, that's the picture. That's the tornado. I mean, that's the picture that was taken. Now, what I want you to do is while I'm sitting here, you need to be thinking about prepping. I don't care if you live in the South, you got tornadoes. Even if you live in the Gulf Coast areas, you got dang hurricanes. People out west, you know you got earthquakes. I mean, and wildfires. So you need to be prepping accordingly. And anybody along the dang Mississippi, along that damn Madrid's fault, you need to be thinking about the earthquakes as well, and all the nuclear plants up and down that. You need to be thinking about that. Just prep. Get your family taken care of. Family first is where it's at. This one, we're switching gears. Thinking of prepping. Boko Haram have killed more than 1,000 Christians in Nigeria since January. The persecution of Christians have been going on for a long time. And let me get me a drink before we get started into this. Sorry about that. But spiritual warfare is real. It's going on. The persecution of Christians by the Muslim based community. Look at how many has been killed over in Iraq, Syria, all over the world. It's staggering the number of Christians that are being killed because they won't turn over their faith to Islam. And it says, according to United Kingdom-based nonprofit organization Humanitarian Aid Relief Trust, or HART, over 1,000 Christians living in in Nigeria have been killed by a terror group Boko Haram and Sunni extremists this year alone. The organization released a report on November 18th entitled "Your Land, Your Body," which details its findings. Islamist Sunni militias continue to engage in aggressive and strategic land-grabbing policy. They attack rural villages, force villagers off their lands, and settle their place. It's a strategy that's employed by the phrase "your land, your blood." Actually, Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram has vowed to kill every Christian they encounter. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people in Nigeria. Hart also reported approximately 6,000 Christians have been killed since 2015, while another 12,000 have been displaced from their villages. That's just one little nation alone. This is not the world, okay? This is not the world. The Christians, the persecution of Christians is that's part of it. It's part of the last days. I mean, uh, read your Bible, folks. Read and here read Revelations. Okay, you need to read Revelations because um, they're not. A lot of churches are not going to cover Revelations. Why? Because it doesn't give you that feel good sermon, where you would put more money into the offering plate, the to line their pockets. It's not that kind. They want you to feel good when you walk out of church. The Lord loves you. The more you give, that's the kind. That's just what they want, and you just needed to read Revelations, read what's going on, look at the signs, and you be your own judge. Don't listen to some talking head like me up on your screen. Please don't. Now, the next subject that I'm going to cover will be. Oh, I guess this is different. Let's see. Yeah. It says, "I stand behind you at the store." It's got a pistol. Go ahead and run it on up. Let me open it up bigger so you can see it. It says, "I stand behind you and a lion at the store with a smile on my face and a gun under my shirt, and you're none the wiser. Yet you are safer for having me next to you. I won't shoot you. My gun won't pull its own trigger. It's securely holstered with the trigger covered. It can't just go off. However, rest assured, if a lunatic walks into the grocery store and pulls out a rifle, I will draw my pistol and protect myself and my family. And therefore, protect you and your family. I may get shot before I can pull the trigger, but I won't die in a helpless, blubbering heap on the floor begging for my life or my child's life. I won't be that victim. I choose not to be. As for you, I don't ask you to carry a gun. If you are not comfortable, then please don't. But I would like to keep my right to choose to not to be a helpless victim. There's evil in this world, and if evil has a gun, I want one too. All right? Now, basically what that says, and that's the truth, okay? Um, I'm sorry. If I mean, I will. I know a lot of people out there, especially close to where I live at. If somebody was walking and Allah Akbar the place, is all I'm gonna say. They they walking in Allah Akbar. I don't know. My local Walmart, I would hate to say it. There'd probably be 30 guns pointed at them real quick. That's just at my local Walmart. I'm glad and happy to say I live in a pretty red state with a very red county and very strong Second Amendment supporters. Um, that's just all I want to say. Now, and this goes back to now this next post that I've dropped down. It says my mind. When somebody says something, don't say shit. Just let it go. Let it go. It's not worth it. Man, for years, my mouth has got me in trouble because my mouth say, "Who the fuck do you think you are? What you really think? Blah blah blah." I mean, I know it's just not me that goes through this because I'd be like, "Man, just bite your tongue, just." But my temper and my mouth would say, "Bloom," it happens. Here we go. Now, on I think it was yesterday at 10:11, President Donald John Trump letter. I call it 1020 for a lot of people if you see me post it. The letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi. This will go down in history as one of the most epic letters from a president to a Speaker of the House in a historic of mankind. Short 6-page letter, definitely worth the read You don't feel like reading, I will read it for you on the next show. So what I'm going to do is I am going to read this letter. Now, I'm not expecting you to see that little ass writing on the screen. There's just no way you can see it. It's on our page. Go back to the Facebook.com TRN247, and you can pull it up yourself and read it. But let me get a drink because it's only 6 pages. Mm. Well, like I said, we know what happened today. They went ahead and um, impeached him. But like I said, it's going to die in the Senate. It's going to die. I mean, it ain't going to go far. Let me pull it up here so that it says December 17th of 2019. The Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. Dear Madam Speaker, I write to express my strongest and most powerful protest against the partisan impeachment crusade being persuaded by the Democrats in the House of Representatives. This impeachment represents an unprecedented and unconstitutional abuse of power by Democratic lawmakers unequaled to in nearly 2.5 centuries of American legislative history. The articles of impeachment introduced by the House Judiciary Committee are not recognizable under any standard of constitutional theory, interpretation, or jurisdiction. They include no crimes, no misdemeanors, and no offenses whatsoever. You have cheapened the importance of a very ugly word, impeachment. By proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oath of office. You are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution. You are declaring open war on American democracy. You dare to invoke the Founding Fathers in pursuit of this election nullified scheme, yet your spiteful actions display unfettered contempt for America's founding, and your erroneous conduct threatens to destroy that which our founders pledged their very lives to build. Even worse than offending the founding fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying, I pray for the president. When you know this statement is not true unless it is meant in a negative sense, it is a terrible thing you're doing, but you will have to live with it, not I. Your first claim, abuse of power, is completely disingenuous, meritless, and baseless. Invention of your imagination. You know I have had totally innocent conversation with the president of Ukraine. I then had a second conversation that has been misquoted, mischaracterized, and fraudulently represented by. Fortunately, there was a transcript of the conversation taken, and you know from the transcript, which I was immediately made available. That paragraph in question was perfect. I said to President Zelensky, I would like for you to do us a favor, because our country has been through a lot, and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I said, do us a favor, not me, and not and our. I said, not me and our country, not a campaign. I then mentioned the Attorney General of the United States every time I talk with a foreign leader. I put American interests first. I just as I did with President Zelensky. Let me go ahead and throw up another picture for you. There it is. It says you're turning a policy disagreement between two branches of government into an impeachable offense. It is no more legitimate than the executive branch charging members of Congress with crimes for the lawful exercise of legislative power. You know full well that Vice President Biden used his office and $1 billion of U.S. aid money to coerce Ukraine into firing the prosecutor who was digging up into the company paying his son millions of dollars. You know this because Biden bragged about it on video. Biden openly stated, I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I looked at them and said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. Even Joe Biden admitted just days ago in an interview with NPR. It looked bad. Now you are trying to impeach me by falsely accusing me of doing what Joe Biden admitted he actually did. President Zelensky has reportedly declared that I did nothing wrong and there was no pressure. He further emphasized that it was a good phone call, that I didn't feel pressure. He especially stressed that nobody pushed me. The Ukraine foreign minister said very clearly, I have never seen a direct link between investigations and security assistance. He also said there was no pressure. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, a supporter of Ukraine who met privately with President Zelensky, had said, at no time during this meeting there was any mention of Zelensky or any Ukrainian that they were feeling pressure to do anything in return for the military aid. Many meetings have been held between representatives of Ukraine and our country. Never once did Ukraine complain about the pressure being applied. Not once. Ambassador Scotland testified that I told him, no quo pro quo. I want nothing. I want nothing. I want President Zelensky to do the right thing. I do what he ran on. To do what he ran on, okay. The second claim, so-called obstruction of Congress, is preposterous and dangerous. The House Democrats are trying to impeach the duly elected President of the United States for asserting constitutionally based privileges that have been asserted on a bipartisan basis by administration of both political parties throughout our nation's history under that standard. Every American president would have been impeached many times over, as a liberal law professor, John Turley, warned when addressing congressional Democrats. I can't emphasize this enough. If you impeach a president, if you make a high crime and misdemeanor out of doing the courts and going to the courts is an abuse of power. It is your abuse of power. You're doing precisely what you're criticizing the president of doing. Everyone you include knows what really happened. Your chosen candidate lost the election in 2016 in an electoral college landslide, 306 to 277. And you and your party have never recovered from this defeat. You have developed a full-fledged case of what many in the media call Trump derangement syndrome, and sadly, you will never get over it. You are unwilling to and unable to accept the verdict issued by the ballot box during the great election of 2016. So you have spent 3 years attempting to overturn the will of the American people and nullify their votes. You view democracy as your enemy. So, Speaker Pelosi, you admitted just last week at a public forum your party's impeachment effort has been going on for 2.5 years, long before you ever heard about a phone call with Ukraine. 19 minutes after I took office, the Washington Post. Okay, let me move it up. You can throw another picture up. Like I said, you're not able to read this. It's too small, but it is on our page. It says, 19 minutes after I took the oath of office, the Washington Post published a story headlined, "The campaign to impeach President Trump had begun less than 3 months after my inauguration." Representative Maxine Waters stated, "I'm going to fight every day until he's impeached." House Democrats introduced the first impeachment resolution against me within months of my inauguration. What will be regarded as one of the country's best decisions, the firing of James Comey, see Inspector General reports, who the world now knows is one of the dirtiest cops our nation has ever seen. A ranting and raving Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, declared that just hours after she was sworn into office, we're going in there and we're going to impeach the motherfucker. Representative Al Green said in May, "I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected again." You and your allies said and did all of these things long before you ever heard of the president of Zelensky. or anything related to Ukraine. As you know very well, this impeachment drive has nothing to do with Ukraine or the totally appropriate conversation I had with the new president. It only has to do with your attempts to undo an election of 2016 and steal the election of 2020. Congressman Adam Schiff cheated and lied all the way to the present day, even going as so far as to fraudulently make up out of thin air my conversation with President Zelensky of Ukraine and read this fantasy language to Congress as though it were said by me. His shameless lies and deceptions, dating all the way back to the Russian hoax, is one of the main reasons we are here today. You and your parties are desperate to distract from the American extraordinary economy, incredible jobs boom, record stock market, soaring confidence, and flourishing citizens. Your party simply cannot compete with our record. 7 million jobs, the lowest ever unemployment for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asian Americans, a rebuilt military, a completely reformed VA with choice and accountability for our great veterans, more than 170 new federal judges, and 2 Supreme Court justices. Historic tax cuts and regulations. The elimination of the individual mandate, the first decline in prescription drug prices in half a century, the first branch of the United States military since 1947, the Space Force, strong protection of the Second Amendment, criminal justice reform, a defeated ISIS caliphate, and the killing of the new world's #1 leader, al-Baghdadi. The replacement of the disastrous NAFTA trade deal with the wonderful U.S., Mexico, and Canada trade deal. A breakthrough Phase 1 trade deal with China. Massive new trade deals with Japan, South Korea. Withdrawal from the terrible Iran nuclear deal. Cancellation of the unfair and costly Paris Climate Accord. Becoming the world's top energy producer. Recognition of Israel's capital. Opening America's embassy in Jerusalem and recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. A colossal reduction in illegal border crossings, the ending of catch and release, and the building of southern wall. And that's just the beginning. There's so much more. You cannot defend your extreme policies. Open borders, mass immigration, high crime, crippling taxes, socialized health care, destruction of America's energy, long-term taxpayer-funded abortion, elimination of the Second Amendment, radical far-left theories of law, justice, and constant partisan obstruction of both common sense and common good. There is nothing I would rather do to stop referring to you as the do-nothing Democrats. Unfortunately, I do not know that you ever have given me the chance to do so. After 3 years of unfair and unwanted investigation, $45 million spent, 18 angry Democrats prosecutors, the entire force of the FBI headed by leadership now proven to be totally incompetent and corrupt, you have found nothing. Few people in high positions could have endured or passed this test. You do not know, nor do you care, the great damages and hurt you have inflicted upon the wonderful and loving members of my family. You conducted a fake investigation upon the democratically elected president of the United States. You are doing it yet again. There are not many people who could have taken the punishment inflicted during this period of time and yet done so much success of American and its citizens. But instead of putting our country first, you have decided to disgrace our country still further. You completely failed with Mueller report. You completely failed with the Mueller report because there was nothing to find, so you decided to take the next hoax that came along, the phone call with Ukraine, even though it was a perfect call. And by the way, when I speak to a foreign countries, there are many people with permissions listening to the call on both sides of the conversation. You are the ones interfering in America's elections. You are the ones circumventing American democracy. You're the ones obstructing justice. You're the ones bringing pain and suffering to our republic for your own selfish personal and political partisan gain. Before the impeachment hoax, it was the Russian witch hunt. Again, all the evidence, and regardless of the truth, you and your deputies claimed that my campaign colluded with the Russians. And grave, malicious, and slanderous lie and falsehood like no other. You forced our nation through turmoil and torment over the wholly fabricated story illegally purchased from a foreign spy by Hillary Clinton and the DNC in order to assault our democracy. Yet, when the monstrous lies was debunked and the Democrat conspiracy dissolved in dust, you did not apologize. You did not recant. You did not ask to be forgiven. You showed no remorse, no capacity for self-reflection. Instead, you pursued your next liable and vicious crusade. You engineered an attempt to frame and defame an innocent person. All of this was motivated by personal political calculation. Your speakership, your party, was held hostage by your most damaged and radical representatives of the far left. Each one of your members lived in fear of a socialist primary challenger. Look at yourself and others. Do not take our country down with your party. If you truly cared about our freedom and liberty for all our nation, then you would be devoting your vast investigation resources to exposing the full truth concerning the FBI's horrifying abuses of power during and after the 2016 including the use of spies against my campaign, the submission of false evidence to FISA court, and the concealment of exclusionary evidence in order to frame the innocent. The FBI has great and honorable people, but the leadership was inept and corrupt. I would think you would personally be appalled by these revelations, because because in your press conference the day you announced impeachment, you tried impeachment effort directly to the completely discredited Russia hoax, declaring twice all roads lead to Putin, when you know that's a lie. I have been far tougher on Russia than President Obama had ever thought to be. Another one. Any member of Congress who votes in support of impeachment against every shred of fact, evidence, and legal principle is showing how deeply reviled the voter and how truly the deepest American constitutional order our founders feared tribalization and partisan policies. You are bringing their worst fears to life. Worse still, I have been deprived of basic constitutional due process from the beginning of this impeachment scam. Right up till the present, I have been denied the most fundamental rights afforded by the Constitution, including the right to present evidence to my own counsel, to confront accusers, and to cross-examine witnesses, like so-called whistleblower who started the entire hoax with a false report of a phone call that bears no relationship to the actual call that was made. Once I presented the transcribed call, which surprised and shocked the fraudsters. They never thought that such evidence would be presented. The so-called whistleblower and the second whistleblower disappeared because they got caught. Their report was fraud, and they were no longer going to be made available to us. In other words, once the phone call was made public, your whole plot blew up. That didn't stop you from continuing. More due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. You and others on your committees have long said impeachment must be bipartisan. It is not. You said it was very divisive. It certainly is, even far more than you ever thought possible, and it will only get worse. There's nothing more than an illegal, partisan attempted coup that will, based on recent statements, badly fail in the voting booth. You're not just after me as the president. You are after the entire Republican Party. But because of the colossal injustice, our party is more united than it has ever been before. History will judge you harshly as you proceed with the impeachment charade. Your legacy will be the last of that turning House of Representatives from a revenge legislative body into a star chamber of partisan persecution. Perhaps the most insulting of all is your false display of solemnity. You apparently have so little respect for the American people that you expect them to believe that you are approaching this impeachment somberly, revolution, and reclusively. No intelligent person believes that you are saying. Since the moment I won the election, the Democrat Party has been posed by impeachment fever. There is no residence. This is not a concealing your hatred for me. The Republican Party and tens of millions of patriotic Americans, the voters, are wise, and they are seeing straight through this empty, hollow, and dangerous game you're playing. I have no doubt the American people will hold you and the Democrats fully responsible in the upcoming 2020 election. They will not soon forgive your perversion of justice and abuse of power. The last picture. There is far too much that needs to be done to improve the lives of our citizens. It's time for you and the highly partisan Democrats in Congress to immediately cease this impeachment fantasy and get back to work for the American people. While I have no expectations that you will do so, I write this letter for you for the purpose of history and to put my thoughts on a permanent and indeniable record. 100 years from now, when people look back at this affair, I want them to understand it and learn from it, so it can never happen to another president again. It was signed, as you see, Donald Trump. Okay. Well, that was a lot to take in, and you know it was. It was a lot to take in. Yes, we all know that they have been trying to impeach him. Let me go ahead and I'm almost getting ready to open up the lines. But I want you to join me on Discord if you're out there. I'm just here, but I got like a couple more stories, and that should do it. But there's the Discord link for you to join me at. Let me get a drink. Because this next story has got to do with the Russian spy ship caught operating in unsafe manner off the U.S. coast. Speaking of spy, in 1420 letter, he did refer back to the attempted coup of them spying on his 2016 campaign, and but let me go ahead and read this on up. Let me see what this is. Okay. It said Russian spy ship caught operating in unsafe manner off U.S. coast. Well, we know the Russians are listening. Hell, we listen to the Russians. I mean, at least that's what the Coast Guard suspect after a Russian ship was spotted lurking off the coast between South Carolina and Florida, citing a U.S. official. The Victor Lenovo has been sporadic visitor to U.S. waters. It is attempted to gather surveillance off the southeast coast and the areas around the naval base at Norfolk, Virginia, Joint Base Charleston in South Carolina, and the submarine base at Kings Bay, Georgia. On Sunday, the Coast Guard in Charleston issued a maritime safety information bulletin about the Lenovo, calling it a Russian AGI, that's an Auxiliary General Intelligence Ship. The United States Coast Guard has received reports indicating that the RAFN Victor Lenovo has been operating in an unsafe manner off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. That the notice said, this is what it said. It said, quote, this unsafe operation includes not engaging running lights while in reduced visibility conditions, not responding to hails by commercial vessels attempting to coordinate safe passage, and other erratic movements, it added. Ships located in the area of Georgia and South Carolina should maintain a sharp lookout and use extreme caution when navigating in proximity to the vessel. The notice said, you know, as the Russians try to spy on the U.S., Americans are, like I said, they're returning the favor. I mean, I've seen this same other ships like this out in the Gulf of Mexico. I've heard it all up and down the East Coast. I mean, come on, Cold War might be over with, but they're still spying on every side. On every side. Well, speaking of spying, like I said, in this letter that I just read to Trump, to Pelosi, um, it says, I'm going to bring it down so I can read it. It said, today's FISA rebuking has just opened the door to the exposure of Obama-era abuses of intelligence communities spying program on Americans. How high will it go? And which sacred cows could get slaughtered, or is the swamp going to protect itself? Yet again, call it a right-wing conspiracy, as you did with Fast and Furious, the scandals, Pizzagate, Spygate. This goes back to it. Let me see what this is. Okay, and the reason that I posted that on that day, it's because the Obama administration FISA abuse is a massive scandal, folks. I'll call it Spygate or FISAgate. Perhaps if the Democrats would momentarily shelve their session with Donald Trump, they would comprehend the staggering abuse of power they're defending these days. Because much of Wednesday's last Wednesday, I think it was, Senate Judiciary Committee hearing with the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Hortz was a jaw-dropping one. Hortz's testimony, in fact, sounded a little like a media description of the IG report only the day before. Most major outlets had stressed that the IG had found no bias in the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, but failing to uncover explicit interest of bias and exonerating the FBI aren't the same thing. Worse, most of the media had buried the ledge, and an honest headline would have read something like this: Obama's FBI cooked up evidence to keep rickety investigation of Trump's campaign going. Let me read you this from the hearing. Okay? Senator Ted Cruz said, a lawyer at the FBI creates fraudulent evidence, alters an email that is in turn used as bias for a sworn statement to the court that the court relies on. Am I stating that correctly? Horowitz said that's correct. He said that's correct. This isn't a matter of sloppiness, as so many of the FBI defenders had insisted. A lawyer for the nation's top law enforcement agency run by the Obama administration concocted evidence and modified emails to use in warrant applications, which the bias of a sworn statement in court, all of it to keep open during an election season. A low threshold counterintelligence investigation into the opposition's party political campaign. A person would need to suspend his disbelief to believe that the government lawyer would risk fabricating this kind of evidence in such a sensitive case without any partisan intent. By any standard, though it is corruption, the FBI misled a FISA court that already hands out warrants at a 99.8% rate. In a case against Trump, the Americans were assured was an absolute no-brainer. Who oversaw the process? How many people saw these warrants? According to Horowitz, managers and supervisors in the Crossfire Hurricane chain of command, including FBI senior officials who were briefed as the investigation progressed, all knew what was going on. No one said a word. A failing Senator, Richard Blumenthal, forgetting the most vital rule of luring. Try to introduce Horowitz, or entice him, or uh, to admit that the warrants allowing the FBI to spy on one-time Trump Carter Page had actually yielded useful information. Senator Blumenthal said, FISAs are renewed because they are producing useful information. Correct? IG. Or they should be producing useful information. Blumenthal. They were producing useful information, correct? The attorney, IG says, I'm not sure if that's entirely correct. What Hortz did tell the Senate was the FISA warrants relied entirely on useless information found in the fictitious Steele dossier, a document that is not only allegedly featured in intelligence gleaned from foreign powers, but one that was paid for by the same political party running the DOJ and running against Trump. We know it yielded no beneficial information because Crossfire Hurricane generated zero convictions for criminal conspiracy between Trump's 26th campaign and the dreaded Russian. What that case has done is it created an array of dangerous precedents. What, for instance, stops the Republicans from clobbering together their own salacious dossiers, send it to friends, executive branch, and law enforcement, using it to obtain FISA warrants, linking it to compliant media, with all propelling an investigation that smears a bunch of their adversaries for political reasons. The faith in the FBI, okay. Obama's administration defenders, such as Michael Feld, tell us that Americans, not just Democrats, should be thankful that the partisanship does not influence the lawyers manufacturing evidence to spy on political campaign. It featured FBI agents in promising to stop the president. If it featured the top FBI leader with the same people who had been lecturing us about patriotism and loyalty, lying to the American people, why didn't CNN contributor Andrew McCabe, which we know who Andrew McCabe was. He worked with the FBI now. He's the CNN contributor who handpicked the agents involved in crafting the FISA warrants before being fired from the FBI for misconduct. Ever speak up about these abuses in 2018? The former head of the FBI, James Comey, said, I have total confidence that the FISA process was followed and that the entire case was handled in a thoughtful, responsible way. I think the notion that the FISA was abused here is nonsense. So was he lying? Now, if your argument is that FISA abuse, as it goes on all the time, well, that too is a huge scandal for the Obama administration and the FBI. Hopefully, the Republicans will change their position on surveillance powers, whether they do it or do it not. However, this does not mitigate the harm from this scandal. The institutional media, it treated anyone who cautioned about FISA abuse or the misuse of the dossier as a conspiracy theory. It has lost all credibility issue. It's going to be impossible for them to walk back the 3 years of misplaced journalistic criticism and honesty accepted assets in the scandal. But I have no doubt that if a Republican administration had snooped on the Democratic Party candidate, utilizing fabricated evidence and a fantasy opposition field filed put together by a one-time foreign agent, no less, it would be treated as one of the biggest political scandals in American history, and it's been for a good reason. Now, see, all this ties back to the letter, like I said, that he sent to Nancy Pelosi. It goes all back. I mean, he mentioned this. He mentioned James Comey. I'm going to transition that. I mean, he mentioned a lot of stuff. I'm open now to taking any questions. I got one more thing that I do want to run, and it kind of hits home. And I'm switching gears again. Okay. family values are being lost. Last show, I talked to you about having Sunday dinner, not going out to eat. I'm talking cooking at home. I'm talking um, just having a family dinner. Um, Bullying is common in our schools. I know when I was growing up, we had bullies. Sure, we did. But we didn't shoot up the school. It goes back to the family values. It goes back to the family structure, the husband, the wife, and the kids. A lot of people are single families now. A lot of them are, uh, it's hard on them. So a lot of our values are getting lost. Now, this video, it hit hard because I want to know, did this, did they take this video too hard on bullying and on this other stuff? Do they cross the line with this video? Um, I want you to be the judge. I really do. It's only like 2 or 3 minutes long. It's not a very long video.
Silence.
See, that was a pretty powerful video, and again, I see it in the use, even going to Walmart or around. I see some of the ones that probably get bullied on, or you could just tell by their nature. Um, and it's a common, even in small communities where, let's say, it's a K through 12 in one school system. Uh, I do live in a small rural area where school systems are like that. So you got these kids that some of them got money, and a lot of these school systems in this area are poor. You got a lot of poor kids. So when you got kids out there that are making fun of them because they ain't got the latest shoes or the latest clothes or the latest iPhone, they're using Android because, well, um, they can't afford it. They get picked on. And again, we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to those Sunday dinners that I talked about. We need to uh, come to come together as a family. That's what's so bad. That's what's so wrong with the nation today. We've lost religion. We lost uh, the church. We don't pray as much as we do, or we say we do, but we're not going for the church for the reasons that some of us should. You know the hypocrites that I'm talking about. They go just to keep up with the Joneses. They go just to show off the new hat that they got. And Texas Whirlwind, I'm glad to see you on. Yes, wow, that is a powerful video. Let me see what other comments I got I might have missed. No, I didn't. I didn't miss none. Uh, I got the lines open. I'm on Discord now. You can join me. I don't know if you caught the show, but I'm going to go ahead and close it on out. But folks, we need to be thinking about a lot of things in life. You've seen where I posted to the page, the Facebook page, about prepping, about those tornadoes that came through that killed those people when there was ample warning. You need to protect your family. You need to be thinking about what you're going to do in the event of a crisis. Prepping is something that's fundamental, and also it goes back to the 4 B's that I always talk about: your bullets, your beans, your bandages, and your Bible. Well, your beans are for your nourishment, and that Bible will also give you nourishment. Your bullets, you're going to need to defend your family and yourself. And that Bible's got the scripture in there that will help you shoot off those and defend you and yours. Like put on the whole armor of God. Your bandages, okay, they're to cover you, cover the wounds, to stop the bleeding. And that's also what the Bible does. So in the sense, your 4 B's, your beans, your bullets, your bandages, and your Bible. You're going to need your Bible in a time of crisis. You're going to need to be praying a whole lot. Trust me, you're going to need to be asking yourself for some guidance. And don't get yourself locked up into a self-created jail cell, okay? Don't put yourself in that cage in your mind. A lot of people, they get, by all this evidence that's coming out, with all this stuff that's going on in our country, with all the other conspiracies that are sometimes not conspiracies, it does work on a person's mind. And they create what's called a self-created jail cell. A person must break free from that and realize there's no boundaries. Only you are the ones keeping yourself from holding yourself back. Don't let others do it. It's you who's creating. So on that note, remember, they can't cage us.
Let that clip roll.
You can't cage us. You can't cage us. No, no. You can't cage us like an animal. You can't cage us like an animal. No, you better back down or break through these walls. You better move like my name was Biggie Smalls. I'm like the god of Grease running around, holding it down, ready to smite your town. I'm raging. I kill him every single time I'm off the leash. This dog bites even the hand that feeds. Beyond the streets, we get it on the beach. and then we take it down to the Isle of Crete. Cause I celebrate and lift my hands and revelate the sacred land. Cause I wanna break free, it's in my human nature. I'm gonna fight it cause I'm naughty by nature. And it's not cause I hate you and I wanna debate you, but I wanna detain you, take you straight to Albania. Yeah, I'm gonna rage. You better watch it cause I'm breaking out this cage.